Español 3, el subjuntivo, segunda parte. Folks, subjunctive isn't a tense or a time. It is a mood. You almost always begin your idea in the indicative mood, and it can provoke or evoke the subjunctive. Think about it as a way of expressing yourself more emphatically and making more sophisticated sentences afterwards. This is obviously going to be mostly in English. I'm sorry, but it's a really, not complicated, well, yeah, complicated, grammar form or mood. So most teachers use the following acronym. WEIRDO! Perfect for me, right? Okay. WEIRDO stands for wishes, emotions, and personal expressions, recommendations, doubt, and ojalá. Wishes. Mi mamá. I can just hear my students saying this every day. Mi mamá quiere que yo saque la basura hoy. Look, quiere, there's your indicative. Saque, there's your subjunctive. So it has been evoked or provoked. Okay, emotions. Estoy muy contento que ustedes, en sus casas, que ustedes estudien para los exámenes. ¡Ja, ja! ¡Qué contento estoy! Alright? In personal expressions. Es importante que tú hagas la tarea todos los días. You see, I'm not getting personal there. I'm just stating facts. Es importante que ustedes estudien. Es importante que ustedes se cepillen los dientes. Es necesario que ustedes vengan a la escuela. Etc., etc. Impersonal expressions. Recommendations. Now I've got two here. Recomiendo is often used. Sugiero is often used, but a lot of students get confused. They're like, what's sugerio? Right? No, it's sugiero from the verb sugerir. Okay? And I don't know, I'm just going to say that it's suggesting something. Ooh, yes, I translated. Okay, I'm feeling kind of out of, it's as if I'm shifting paradigms. I'm doing something I don't usually do. Okay, so, recomiendo que comas más verduras para mantener una dieta equilibrada. Hey, I just integrated vocab from the previous chapter. Yo recomiendo, yo sugiero, como Dr. David, que comas más verduras para mantener una dieta equilibrada. Next we have doubt. La muchacha que se siente aquí, yo no creo que ella hable español toda la clase. Yo creo que ella habla, that's indicative, yo creo que ella habla inglés a veces. No creo que hable, creo que habla. One of them has doubt, the other one does not. Alright, and then finally, ojalá, which is really just another form of expressing wishes, but it is only ojalá. Alright, and ojalá comes from the Arabic influence on the Spanish language. Praise be to Allah. Allah willing, God willing. Okay? So, ojalá, similar to wishes, ojalá que el examen sea fácil. Ojalá. That's what most students. By the way, ojalá is not a verb. It's not ojalar. Alright, halar is something else, like pulling somebody's hair. Alright, so, thinking back to these sentences that I'm sure you paused and copied down. Now, take a moment. Take a moment at home, please. Por favor. Quiero que tomen un momento. Read those sentences. Analyze those sentences. Take some time to think about those sentences. Tell me what you see. Hey, that's right. Tell me more. Oh, that's right too. Wait, you're not talking? You're just waiting for me to tell you what you see? All right, I'll tell you what you see. This is what I'm hoping you see. Each of the sentences that was over on that part of the board, it begins in the indicative. Yo quiero, estoy, mi mamá quiere, es importante. It's not sea importante, it's not quiera que yo sa, all right? So the sentences, they start with the indicative. Okay? That's the normal conjugation. That's the conjugation you've known in Spanish 1, 2, and most of 3 up until now. Then each sentence introduces a second subject. Mi mamá quiere que yo. That's two subjects, mi mamá and yo. All right? Es importante, your first subject is es importante, even though it's impersonal. Que tú hagas es and tú. Yo recomiendo que tú comas yo y tú, right? So each sentence introduces a second subject, and the second subject is the one that gets conjugated in the subjunctive. Now, there are situations where the first subject is inferred, meaning it's not really written out, but it's still suggested. In the words of Yoda, it's actually Ben Kenobi, Obi-Wan Kenobi, but I'm using Yoda because I just am. Que la fuerza esté con ustedes siempre. Now that is, of course, a Star Wars reference, and if you got it, that's fantastic. If you didn't, I'll explain it anyway. Alright, so it's understood that Yoda, or Ben Kenobi, is thinking, yo espero que la fuerza esté con ustedes. And of course I say that before every test, right? But if you don't understand that reference, I could do something else. Instead of que la fuerza esté con ustedes, que vengan a la clase puntualmente. Now, of course, I'm thinking in my head, espero que vengan a la clase puntualmente. Espero que lleguen a tiempo. But I don't say that way. I say, que lleguen a tiempo. Okay? Let's say I tell my son to take out the garbage. Saca la basura. Mandato. And he doesn't want to do it. He'll say something like, oh, let my sister do it. All right? Que la saque Mary Frida. Que la saque ella. Que la saque otra persona. All right? He's really saying, yo prefiero que la basura, que la saque otra persona que sea yo. Yo no quiero hacerlo. Okay? So anyway, there's your, sometimes it's inferred, but there's still a second subject. It's just the first subject was inferred. All right, so I have some notes, A, and then we'll move over to B. The note is, you can have one subject and subjunctive, but it is uncommon, and I've just given you an example. All right? And you can, oh no, sorry. You can have one subject and subjunctive. For example, you could say, oh, you get to the test, you're all nervous and everything, you're biting your fingernails until they look gross, and you say, espero que saque una A en el examen. Espero que saque una A en el examen. And you're talking about yourself, not somebody else, because you don't care about anybody else. You only care about yourself because you're a teenager. That's what teenagers do. They care about themselves. Right? No, that's an exaggeration. But what you're saying is, yo espero que yo saque una A en el examen de español. And that makes total sense. It's subjunctive. But wait, there's a more common way to say that. And it's written right below if you've already read ahead. Good for you. Espero sacar una A en el examen. It's saying the exact same thing and you no longer need subjunctive. So though you can have the subjunctive with one subject, it's just uncommon because there's so many ways to avoid it. And it's unnecessary. More notes. Two subjects, and this is really important because everybody, once I teach you subjunctive, all of my students start saying, ooh, subjunctive everywhere. They just put everything in subjunctive and they forget. You start in the indicative, and sometimes if it expresses a wish, an emotion, an impersonal expression, a recommendation, doubt, or ojalá, then you have provoked the subjunctive. But the subjunctive isn't automatic. Yo creo que tú, en tu casa, yo creo que tú tienes muchos amigos. Yo no creo que él tiene, no, yo no creo que él tenga muchos amigos, pero yo creo que tú sí tienes muchos amigos. All right, so, creo que tienes muchos amigos. There's no doubt there. Es cierto, again, no doubt. Es cierto que estudias mucho para mi clase. Es cierto. All right, so here, we have, yo creo que tú tienes Two subjects, but no subjunctive. Es cierto, in personal expression, es cierto que estudias mucho para mi clase. Again, we have two situations with two subjects, but no subjunctive. Subjunctive isn't automatic. It has to fall into some of those categories. So, and I've written this out for you in case you don't want to listen to me. The second example is an impersonal expression, but there is absolutely no doubt. You must have a clear wish, emotion, and I say a strong emotion because you can't just say, que bueno que. You have to say, que bueno que! You know, it has to be a strong emotion. Recommendation or doubt. What should you take away from this? Listen, I'm not going to pretend that you're going to know the subjunctive after just this very brief lesson and the one before that which showed you the conjugations. This takes practice. I still mess it up sometimes. Many people mess it up because there's so many gray areas, and this is just an introduction. That's why I put it in all caps. This is all brought in caps? No, all capital letters. This is just an introduction. There is so much more to come. You want ejemplos? Well, we have this word si. Now, if it had an accent mark, it'd be si. But if it doesn't have an accent mark, of course, it's si, right? Si tú haces la tarea, vas a sacar mejores calificaciones. I got interrupted by the bell. Okay. Si tú sacas buenas calificaciones, mami te va a dar dinero. I don't know. I hope they don't have to bribe you to do that. But anyway, si is the ultimate indicator of doubt. But si clauses don't use subjunctive. Now, of course, I say that it's doubt, but it's partially because the connected clause would remove doubt from the clause. Because once this thing happens, then something else happens. You know, it's a consequence. But there is doubt there because you don't know that it's actually going to happen. And then we have the word cuando. Cuando can trigger the subjunctive, but it doesn't always trigger the subjunctive. It just depends. And we'll get into that more later because this is an introductory video and we will practice expanding it. Let's just get the basics down. So finally, I made this little sentence. I thought it was really clever. Consider the subjunctive to be a paradigm shift, much like when your math teacher started adding letters. Can you believe it? You had all those numbers down and then your math teacher started putting letters in the equation and your brain just exploded. You're like, ugh, who put letters into math? Right? Okay? Or when you discover there are consequences for eating fast food every day. I know right now you have a teenager metabolism, but at some point you just have to go and look at the people who are ordering fast food and you can tell which one's ordered every day. Right? All right? Shocker! Not everybody has a teenager's metabolism. Okay? Or any other major discovery that impacted your childhood in a way that made you feel like, oh, my childhood is over. This cannot be. Something is totally wrong in the world. I know that around December time, some people make horrible discoveries about the world. Right? I won't go into it more than that. They also make wonderful discoveries, etc., etc. Anyway, this is the second video on subjuntivo, and I hope it was helpful. Adios.